In today's episode, I'm super excited. We're going to be bringing on author and experienced team leader Nick McLean. You guys do not want to miss this episode. We're going to talk about his new book, $1 Million Agent, and how you can implement his strategies to be successful. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Agent Bridge podcast. I'm Brandon Baca, Marine Corps veteran and 15-year realtor, broker, and coach.
And I'm Marl Hessen. I'm a Fortune 500 C-suite executive, real estate investor, and entrepreneur.
The Agent Bridge is the proven path to real estate success without the burnout. Okay, guys, I'm super excited for this episode. I don't even remember what number it is, but we'll put it down at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, we're closing in on 40.
We're
it's
closing in
39
on
or 40.
Yeah. Please don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you follow our podcast, whether it's Apple or Spotify or YouTube or wherever it is. We'd love to have you like, subscribe, comment, give us some feedback there. The other exciting news is we're releasing our three series we did, Supercharge Your Success. We're releasing that in one ebook called Supercharge Your Success, surprisingly enough. And so make sure you take time to download that. We'll put that in the show notes. It'll be agentbridge.com/supercharge.
That's right.
So you can download the book, agentbridge.com/supercharge. All right. And as always, let's talk about the crazy real estate market. As I like to say that I stole from John Cheplack, it is neither a good market or a bad market. It is a real estate market. So let's talk about what's going on. What do we have for updates?
Yeah. Fed had their meeting. They released the minutes. People digested that. Obviously, they didn't like what they heard. Kind of rates went to the moon a little bit on us last week.
Yeah.
But the CPI data releases this morning. It's actually already been released. It looked a little better than they anticipated, so that should bring rates a little bit back below 6 or below 7 rather, I would hope.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we're all we need is this inflation to get under control, and we should be heading in the right direction.
Right. Okay, well, let's get into our content for today. So we are bringing on author Nick McLean. So Nick is the author of a book called $1 Million Agent. I'm excited to visit with him, and he's an experienced team leader. So Nick McLean is an executive level real estate broker. His team sells more than 500 homes and produces over $250 million in sales volume annually. Through his years of trial and error and high-value education, he has discovered what it takes to build and maintain his position as an industry leader. He not only passes on his knowledge as an elite real estate coach with John Cheplack Select Coaching, but he also provides his own team with training sessions each morning and numerous opportunities to expand their credentials and professional development. Nick McLean is also a former wildland firefighter and trained commercial Boeing 747 pilot. He prides himself on clocking out at 11 a.m. so he can be a devoted father, husband, and competitive XC mountain bike racer. Nick wrote $1 Million Agent to share his business acumen with everyone. Nick, welcome to the program. We're so happy to have you, man. Thank you for taking some time to be here.
That is a resume.
Yes, it is.
I love the bio. Yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Always interesting to hear someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I actually had on there Ice Road Trucker at one point, but I worked for the Ice Road Truckers up in the
Did you really?
Carlisle.
Yeah.
But I took it out because I wasn't actually the Ice Road Trucker.
Right.
I just worked at that company. I'm like, I was a Boeing 747 and I did fight fire and I loved it. And I was in the trenches. So I'm excited to be here.
I would like for you to walk us through the process of how you went from airline pilot to a real estate agent. What did that look like? What was that like?
I was aspiring. I was a commercial airline pilot flying international cargo, and you're on and you're off. And I thought I'd get my real estate license as a side hustle when I was home.
Right.
My thought was when I become captain, I'll be making so much money that I'll need to invest in real estate. And I thought as a real estate investor, it would make sense to have a real estate license. And you come to find there's pros and cons to that. I mean, I think as a real estate investor, it might be better not to have your real estate license in some aspects, but sometimes it does help get deals. So I got my real estate license when I got sick in Bangkok. Thailand. I got sick, so sick,
Oh,
and I was stuck there for like 9 days because the airplane took off and it wasn't going to be back for 9 days. So I signed up for my online real estate course and got my license. I mean, that's
wow.
how easy it is to get your real estate license.
Right.
So long story short, the airline I was working for ran out of money. So I was laid off and I got into real estate in 2008.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
I have a corporate background, and my story is not dissimilar to that. I have been an investor for a long time, so I've invested in real estate since 2002. But I had a corporate background. I was a CIO, and then I just decided, hey, if I'm going to be investing in real estate, why not get my license? And that's how my kind of journey started as well. So it seems like we had similar, thinking on our strategy, but
Yeah,
certainly a
absolutely.
life changer at some point because you leave the corporate world and you go do real estate full time.
Yeah, and part of the real estate, the attraction to real estate was I could be home every day.
Yeah.
As a commercial airline pilot, I was gone 21 days a month
Mhm.
straight.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy.
you read in my bio, father and a husband, and that was really important to me. Even at 25 to 27, I'm thinking at some point in my life I want to do that. And being away in Europe and Asia isn't going to be conducive for a positive outcome there.
Right.
So I bit the bullet, and it was hard to give up flying. But I'm still a pilot at heart, and I still fly for fun.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm interested though to have like the thought to me about having an airline pilot mind and getting into real estate because so many real estate agents come into this business, or the assumption people have is that you have to have a certain type of personality or that you have a certain mindset to be successful as a real estate agent. I would say as an airline pilot, you probably have a little bit more of a technical mind,
Yeah.
getting into this. What was that like? What kind of approach did that help you bring into real estate?
Yeah, so I think in terms of a process and departure and destination, with waypoints in between.
Hmm.
And you hear real estate agents that talk all the time about, like, work with me and I'll hold your hand every step of the way. You hear these things. You can trust me to have a great buyer experience, a great seller experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go into these real estate companies, and I've trained real estate companies, and you go into these real estate teams or agents, and you say, okay, show me your process, show me your steps. So you're going to take me from here to there, A to B. What
Mm-hmm.
are all the steps?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know. Look at a home, jump across the Grand Canyon into home ownership.
Yeah.
Right.
But the reality is there's hundreds of steps in between. Hundreds of steps in between. And so as a pilot, I got into real estate going, oh my gosh, this is the wild, wild west. There is actually no standardization at all.
Oh yeah.
There is no training manual. There is no playbook. There is for the agents,
That's right.
because the consumer wants it. I can tell you this right now. The consumer wants to work with the agent that has the playbook, that has the game plan, the flight plan for them. This is
Mm.
what I found. So I was not a natural born salesperson, but I had to study it intently. But what I found was, I call it process-based selling. By telling the person what's going to happen in what order, they're going to be more likely to make a decision and move to the next step. So people won't move to the next step if they don't know what the next step is and it's not clear to them.
Right.
So I just frankly go, I mean, one of my favorite lines is, would you like to know what happens next?
Hmm.
I could be talking to a buyer on the phone. I could be talking to a seller on the phone. I could be in the appointment. I could be anywhere. And I just say, hey, would you like to know what happens next? Not, do you want to do what's next?
Mm-hmm.
Not, do you want to buy it? Do you want to sell it? Just purely, do you want to know what happens next, or what would happen next if you decided to? And they always say yes.
Mm-hmm.
They always do. I mean, if they don't, then move on, right? And then you get to explain what happens next, and then you ask them to take the next very step, and the smallest possible step possible, right? And then you just keep moving down the line. And so I just kind of thought that way, and I still think that way.
Absolutely love the nature of that question. It's because if you say, do you want to take the next step? They're going to go, well, hang on, what is it? Right. Or it's like, are you ready to move forward? Like, hang on, I don't know, because
Yeah.
you've got people pumping their brakes, but the very nature of, would you like to know what happens next, presents options to that buyer. It's like, I
It
get to
does.
make the decision on whether I move forward or not.
It doesn't sound like a strong commitment. It's just
Yeah.
them wanting to hear more information.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, and they do, and they really, really do. And so then that puts the pressure, I would say pressure or the responsibility as a commercial airline, because as a commercial airline pilot, when you're the pilot in command, the PIC, you are 100% responsible for the outcome and the results
Mm-hmm.
and the process, right? And so the responsibility is, I need to know the process. I need to know the next step. And so I think a lot of real estate agents too, since they don't know the next step, they don't ask that question and they
Right.
don't explain.
Right.
Just explaining the process will magically open up so many doors for you. And yeah, you might think I need it in writing. Okay, maybe. But you lay it out there for everybody and you don't overwhelm people. So you don't tell them like every step in the process.
Mm-hmm.
You just tell them like one or two next steps.
Yeah.
And then you keep working them through the process. And I always like to think, as a pilot too, it's like you never skip a step. Don't skip a step. Even when somebody wants to make that huge leap, let them make the leap, but then make sure you go back and fill in the steps because
Mm-hmm.
I really think about minimizing errors and mistakes in real estate. And so, yeah. So I'll throw it back over to you guys on
Well, I
that
think,
point.
no, it's very, because a lot of times we, as real estate agents, we like to move things forward and we get excited, if somebody's moving forward quickly. But what happens is you're setting a trap up for yourself, because you are creating the possibility for self-doubt for your client rather than confirming the decisions that they've made along the way, right? Because if you're going back and saying, hey, this is what we decided to do, right, then they're taking ownership of that decision versus me just letting them go and hey, this is great, I'm excited, but then the next day we've got buyer's remorse, or I shouldn't have done that, or they're backing up or digging their heels in and being defensive and you're trying to pull them back. So that makes a lot of sense when you're talking about the process, just having them take ownership in the decisions that were made.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny, the more I studied process and I studied sales and influence and persuasion and cognitive biases, I found that what I was doing incorporated a lot of those things. I'll give you an example. Richard Thaler wrote a book called Nudge, and he I think he won the Nobel Prize for the book, and he advises governments, organizations on how to get large groups of people to comply or to adopt a certain policy.
Hmm.
And what he found was you don't tell them to do it. Like it's human nature that we don't like to be told what to do.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't want, and that's just something that's already in most Americans. And I
Right.
wouldn't say maybe you could argue some culture that's not the case, but in America, we don't like to be told what to do.
That's right.
Okay. So it goes with buyers and sellers. But I just need to nudge them. I just need to nudge them to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. And before they know it, they bought a home. And I don't know how many times in my career, and I haven't sold homes in 5 years outside my team, where they say, Nick, this is at the destination. Like, Nick, we never thought we'd be here. Right?
Right.
When we called you, when we signed up on our website, when we met you, when you reached out to us, we were reluctant. We didn't want this. We didn't know we didn't want it. And here we are. And we're so happy we're here. Right? Like, I love that fact that it was like, oh man, through the process, they slowly became more and more committed, more and more open to this idea. And through a series of micro commitments and decisions, they end up selling their house or buying something completely different. And for me, it was so much, it's just a more beautiful way of selling homes and buying homes than having to be just a hardcore closer over the phone. Now you got to learn how to close,
Right.
but to have a little bit more mastery to it excited me. And what's cool about working under a framework of process is the experience is better for the other person, and you get more wins. So many agents get struggle because the distance between what works and getting paid is so far away, right? The 90-day rule, what you do today is what you get paid for 90 days. It's hard to stay motivated because it's really hard. And so I'm always thinking, every single day I'm thinking, I was just talking to one of my agents and business partner, Trevor, last night. You know, he's been with me for 9 years on my team, and then we opened up a pest company together. Right. And you know, that's what's cool about being a team leader and entrepreneur is you get to build opportunities with other people. And I was saying to him, I was like, I just need to win. I just need to win. And he's like, I need to win too. And I go, good. And I say this to myself all the time. I'm like, I need to win. And it's not that I'm going to give up or that I'm frustrated or I'm demoralized or like demotivated. It's that I'm looking for that next win. Where is the win? And I don't care how big it is. It doesn't matter. I just need it and I'll find it. Yeah. And if it's super, super tiny, you know, if it's a like or a comment on my social media post, is it a new lead? Is it a quality conversation? Is it a, you know, whatever it is, I'm going to take it. Is it a book sale, one, half, I'm going to take that win. And those little wins through the process are huge. And so when you're looking at like, I broke down back in my career, I broke down like how much I made when I sold a home, but I also broke it down to how many homes do I need to show to sell a home. So I knew my metrics.
Right.
And so I could say definitively, if I showed 3 homes today, I made $631.50, right? If I talked to 10 people today, I knew I made $51 per contact. And so those were little wins. Because I would go home to my wife, who was a teacher, and she knew exactly how much she made that day. And she goes, Nick, how'd it go? And I'm in real estate sales, and I didn't make a sale. I didn't have a closing. So it's demoralizing to go to your spouse or something and say, well, no, I didn't close anything today, so I guess I'm not providing any money to the family. It's demoralizing.
Yeah, it is.
We make up excuses about this stuff. Well, you know, I'm hoping for something. I wish for something, and maybe I'll make a sale down the road, right? And so we start, and then we hide how good we're doing because we didn't have a closing. Closings don't happen that often. Even when I sold a home a week, you know, 6 of the days I didn't make any money. So I broke it down. And so my wife would say, how'd it go today? Awesome. I just made $351. Really? You did? Yeah, it's not in the bank yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to play tricks with yourself.
You really do. And I'm experiencing that, you know, with consistently training new agents and also a newer generation and a newer mindset that's even more instant gratification that we were when we entered the marketplace. And I love the idea of breaking that down into the dollars per activity. Because I agree with you. It's like you have to do that or you're going to feel defeated.
We talk about that in the open house
every day. When I figured out that thing where, and here's the thing to everyone listening, you don't have to be right on the money.
Right.
Just, you know, if it's $100, it's $100. Just if you're close, you're close. But when I figured out that trick where it was like every day I'm making progress towards money, I'm making money every day. I show up every day. It was fun. And I actually would exceed what I thought I was making oftentimes because I was so consistent every day prospecting, following up. And here's another hack that I do, a mind hack that I do with myself too, is I will make money in the future. So let's say my wife says, how'd it go today? Awesome. I talked to someone that's going to buy a home in 2 years. So in 2 years from now, because they told me,
Yeah.
and they never lie, you know. And then, right,
Yeah.
I talked to somebody that said they're not ready to sell their home today, but they said they're going to probably sell it in 2 years when they retire. I said, Emily, I just made $5,000 in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I think about it, is like that conversation today, it's not money today, but it's money tomorrow, and that's mine.
Well, but
As long as I don't forget and I follow up, that is my listing, and that's money in the future. And so what's wrong with money in the future? Because here's the thing about real estate is you give up because you're scared you're going to fail in the future. I mean, January 1 is the worst day of a real estate agent's all year. It's the worst day because you go from whatever you sold to zero.
Yeah.
It sucks
That's
every
right.
year. And so I play tricks to myself. It's like, well, no, I got a pipeline. I got these people in the future. I got lots of money already built out. It's future cash flow. And I love future cash flow. And it makes me feel good about what I'm doing and what I'm building and what I'm going towards.
That's awesome. I mean, I absolutely love that philosophy. So, okay, so you're coming into real estate with this sort of process philosophy. You're thinking differently. You've got your daily activities broken down. You know exactly what you're making per activity. You're making future money. So walk me through the timeline of starting with that philosophy and then getting to where you are now, or the chain of events that led you to where you are now, to the future Nick McLean.
Well, I don't know. I don't know where to go with that question except for, I didn't have those ideas out of the gate. No one taught them to me.
Okay.
So I really had to stumble into them. My first year I sold one home, in 2008. Granted, the market crashed in 2008, but I sold one home and I had to take the bus to work. I couldn't afford the gas. And I don't know about real estate agents today, but I remember gas was $4.50 in 2008 or 9. And I couldn't afford to fill up my tank. And there's got to be agents today at $5. In Washington State, it's $5. You guys don't know this because you're in Texas and Tennessee, but it's very expensive. The cost of doing business is going up. So, I learned it as I went, as a way to keep going, just to always keep going. Ask me another question.
And then you walked in from, so there's that. And then it sounds like at some point, I'm guessing in a 2 to 5 year period, you started having success as an individual agent. And then, I'm going to combine this with another question. What do you think? Because at some point you go, boy, I can make 6 figures doing this job. Right. But what do you think is the main skill learned that you have to learn to go from 0 to 6 figures? And then what do you think the main skill is from 6 to 7, right? Or the main mindset? What are those sort of things that you have to adapt mentally and emotionally to go from, to make those steps?
Yeah. So to go from 0 to 6 figures, and we're talking gross or net, probably net, right? Is skills. And the skill set you need is under the umbrella of sales. And it wasn't until I embraced the fact that I am in a sales position. I struggled before I came to terms with that and embraced it as an identity of who I was and who I am and who I need to be. And because I think a lot of agents struggle with this, is they don't recognize they're in sales, and they see it as something bad. You will always struggle as long as you think making money is bad. Filthy rich is filthy, right? Money's the root of all
evil.
As long as you're finishing those sentences, you're going to struggle in real estate. And if you think you don't like salesy, I don't want to sound salesy. I don't want to be pushy. As long as you have these scripts running in your subconscious, you're going to struggle. And so to 0 to 6 figures, it's sales skills.
Yeah.
Not just sales skills. So back to my story about riding the bus to work. I got a bus pass because I couldn't afford my gas. So my real estate office was 45 minutes away, right? In Washington State, that's 45 miles because we don't have traffic.
Yeah.
So 60 miles an hour, right? So I was committed to going to the office every day, right? Not staying at home, going to the office every day. So I take the bus. On the bus, I would read sales books. That was the difference between year 2 and year 3. Is year 2 I sold 12 homes, year 3 I sold 32 homes.
Oh, wow.
And made $207,000. So I went from $70,000 to $200,000 in a year riding the bus to work. Now I can afford gas, so I stopped riding the bus.
Yeah.
But the principle here, the key here is I read every sales book I could get my hands on. The little book of sales, Gittimer, the ultimate sales machine, Chet Holmes, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, Dale Carnegie. I just grabbed them all on Amazon and I read them on the way up. And then I got big into self-help and mindset and all that. And that really propelled me to 6 figures. Never looked back. And I started calling myself a salesperson, not in real estate. When someone would say to me, "What do you do?" Right? Before I was embarrassed because I went from a commercial airline pilot, 747, to a realtor. Right?
Right.
I didn't put my picture on my business card. 1, I thought it was cheesy.
Right.
2, I was embarrassed to be a real estate agent. Right? And then year 2, year 3. So when people would ask me what I did, I'd say real estate. And people do this today too. They say, "What do you do for a living?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm in real estate." Right? I flip homes, I invest, I dabble here, I dabble that, right? To make up for their lack of sales.
Yep.
And so I noticed this about everyone else. Everyone else, all these other agents were pretending they were more than what they really were. And I knew there was something hiding there. There was some lack of integrity there. And I think the consumer could feel it. So I said, I'm going all in. So when someone said to me, "What do you do for a living?" I say, "I sell real estate. I'm a real estate salesperson." 100%. I had to say it in the mirror in the bathroom. I remember, "Nick, you're the #1 real estate salesperson in this area. You are a salesperson." I had to convince myself. And then I would go into buyer consultations, listing consultations, and I would just flat out go straight for it. And I would just say, "You are hiring, you're making the single most important decision you have to make when it comes to selling your home or buying a home. And that's what real estate salesperson you hire. You hire me because I'm the best salesperson. You need to find the best salesperson." Not just real estate salesperson. And so buyer consultation, I've broken down the barrier. I'm not lying. I'm not a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm here to sell you a home. That is what I do for a living. And I'm really, really good at it. And that's what you want. Because there's nothing worse to a consumer that's ready to buy. They don't get served. Right? If you walk into a store and you have money in your pocket and no one's there to sell you something, you get kind of upset.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, when you go into the store and you don't really want to be sold, right? So we've been told that people don't want to be, they like to buy, but they don't like to be sold. We've heard this before. Unless there's people out there that want to be sold, right? And I want to talk to them. And I just felt like I was gravitating to them. And on the listing side of the business, just saying, "Hey, I'm a real estate salesperson. That's why you hired me. You hired me to get your home sold." And I'd win business over and over again because the other agents would pretend they're not in sales.
Yeah, you're confirming really what we believe about real estate agents, which is we know that 2 years they wash out, right? So that's just the typical run rate. But your network knows you as a pilot, or they might know you as a teacher or a corporate guy or a military guy or a paint salesman or whatever. But so it took you that 2 years to believe it yourself that you're in real estate, and then to actually go out and earn the business, and then earn the respect of your network that, hey, this guy is good at real estate. This is what he does now. And so that third year, you take off, and people never make it there.
No.
They never make it there. They never get to the point where, hey, they're actually going to start realizing that this is a career that you can be successful in, because you washed out in the first 2. It's just interesting.
It's really, and it's counterintuitive, because it's actually what the consumer wants from you. They actually want you to be that person. And you've been told, because you've never been in sales before or whatever, that that's not who you need to be, or you shouldn't be, or that you can do it another way. Okay, no, good luck. Good luck. Now, because what they want is they perceive deal maker. They do. They want the deal maker. They want the lead source. They want the intel. They want the competitive advantage, right? They want the scoop. They want the hustler. That's what they want. And you got to deliver it. And so part of that is there's a lot of things that go into it, right? Then you got to learn about negotiations. You got to learn about contracts. You got to know the market better than anybody else, right? But it all starts with that,
I want to go backwards though, because we talk about this a lot. Maybe we don't say enough about it, but reading, like what you're putting into your brain, is so critical to basically redoing your neural pathways and becoming a real estate salesperson.
These skills don't just fall out of the sky. I mean, they don't. Like, you have to, acquire them somehow, whether it's experience or through other people's experiences or whatever. Yeah,
it's just a critical element.
It's a critical element. It really is.
Guys, this episode was so good. We went, actually, the conversation, we went longer. We went about twice as long as we typically go with a podcast interview. So we decided we'd like to keep these podcasts consumable around the 30 to 40 minute mark. So we're going to go ahead and break now. Join us next week for the continuation of this episode. You won't want to miss it. You've heard some great things on this first one. It's going to continue to get better on the second episode next week. So make sure you join us next week. Thanks so much.